Hello, 2026. We're continuing our tradition of helping you step into the new year with insight. Today, we're talking all things numerology with one of our go-to Seeking Center guides, Rebecca, aka Akashic Bec. As her name suggests, Bec is a clear channel of the Akashic Records and a numerologist, intuitive, and spiritual teacher. And she's here to help us decode the energy, themes, and vibe of 2026 so you can navigate the year ahead with intention and ease. So, what is the numerology of 2026? What energy are we collectively stepping into? And how can you align with your own rhythm and purpose with it? We are about to find out. Hi, Bec. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Robin. Hi,
Hello.
Beck.
Hello, ladies. It's so good to be back.
Oh, it's always good to see you. So, numerology. For those who may be new to our podcast or who really don't understand the incredible value of knowing about numerology, can you just give us a very basic definition of how you define numerology and how it works?
Sure. So, numerology is obviously the study of numbers, but it's more than that. It's a predictive tool like astrology, human design, and it's the study of the meaning of numbers, patterns, sequences, and energetic frequency. So, in traditional numerology, the individual meanings of the numbers is like their personalities, but it's like their energetic signature as well. And so you investigate the meanings of those numbers and then you correlate them to where you currently are. So we have universal numbers, which is something that is projected out on the world stage. It's something that's a collective experience. And then we have personal numbers, which affects us directly and can give us an idea of the energy that we are walking into.
Yeah, before we get into this year, one thing that I think people should know is how ancient the study of numerology is, because it always blows my mind when you talk about it. And the other part is, how do we know where we are? We're going to talk about the universal year, but is that like from the inception that it started being studied? Like, how do we know?
Beginning of mankind?
Right.
So let's start at one.
We love these conversations.
So the way that we find the universal
Yes.
year is we add each number of the year together and reduce it to a single digit. So for example, 2026 is a 10-1 universal year. It's 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10, and then 1 plus 0 equals 1. And that's how we dictate what the universal year is.
Got it. And we're going to talk about what that means. But can you also just talk about how old the study of numerology is?
Yes, I really like this question because numbers are the language of the universe, in my opinion. They predate letters. We wouldn't have an alphabet without numbers. And it was actually this traditional modality of numerology was started by Pythagoras, which many people probably learned about him in school. And what's so fascinating about him is he started a school for numerology, and the only requirement was that you had a thirst for knowledge, that you finished and completed the courses that he taught. And it was open to anyone. It didn't matter who it was, what money you had, if you were a man or a woman. It didn't matter. He was open to all people.
Wow.
Makes us love it more.
I've shared that before, but it's always a wow factor for me. And I know we're going to get to the others too, but one of the things that you said earlier that always blows my mind is the idea that numbers have a frequency and an energy about them. Can you just explain what you mean by that?
Sure. So that's just the way I interpret it. Other numerologists may have a different definition, but I just see when I dive into someone's numerology, I look at the factors surrounding it energetically. So I do intuitive numerology in that way because there are overall meanings or basic meanings, right? But when you start looking at the person, looking at the individual, looking at the event, whatever the case may be surrounding the numerology, I tap into what's surrounding it energetically and I pull information from that space. But they all vibrate with their own signature, their own energetic frequency. It's like I said, their personality. It's how you know them. It's just like how I know you guys. You have your own energetic frequency that's unique to everyone else around you.
I love that you can tap into that. That is so cool.
Anybody can.
Yes, you're right. Anybody can. And I think some of us, though, like I talk to people about how I can see colors when someone walks in a room, or which I know, which many people think of as auras. not everyone can see that. And to your point, if I practiced a bit more, I probably would become more aware of what I feel like with certain numbers and what
Exactly.
they mean to me. I just
Yes.
love that you can translate that for all of us. So.
Absolutely. And you think about angel numbers. A lot of people ask me about angel numbers. I see this number all the time. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be 333, 444. It can just be a sequence of numbers that mean something to them personally. And I'm able to interpret what that might mean for them based off of not only the meanings of the numbers, but their own energetic frequency and how it relates to them.
Ooh, I've never done that with you in terms of like my favorite number, 1117. So that might be something we need to explore.
Absolutely.
That's really neat. That's the beauty of it, is that frequency. It always then does relate back to a person. And in this case, we're talking about the collective.
Yes.
All right. So you started saying that this year, 2026, is a 10-1. What does that mean energetically for all of us?
It means so much.
And we should talk about compared to what this past year has been.
Yes, absolutely. So I would love to talk very briefly about 2025. So last year was a 9 universal year. It's interesting because there was no reduction. It was strictly a 9
That's
universal
what I thought.
year.
So actually, when you just said 10-1, I'm like, I don't remember that from last year. So I'm glad you're pointing that out.
Yes. And so 2025 was the end of a 10-year cycle. We were seeing a lot of endings, closures. That's like a basic meaning of the number 9. A lot of endings or things just wrapping up. It wasn't maybe necessarily even an ending. It could have been a beginning. So the 9 universal year, it wasn't just about endings, because endings can happen at any time. But there was a significant ending for us as a collective. We were closing out stories, an old paradigm, old structures, things that no longer serve us as a collective. We were also in a period of reflection, because 9 in math, 9, it reflects every number in that everything added to it equals itself. So 9 plus 1 is 10. And then 1 plus 0 is 1. So 9 is the great reflector, and it gives us an opportunity to reflect back on lessons or teachings or things that came up from our past. 9 is very much tied to ancient wisdom. And so I do feel like there was a resurgence in ancient wisdom that came back in 2025 that we were all tapping into. It was like parts of ourself, parts of the energy of the world. Things were like circling back around to be looked at, to be noticed, to be embraced again. And so in 2026, we are starting over on the number line, right? So we're starting a new cycle. So I'll dive into the meanings of 10-1, if that's okay.
Please.
Just quickly, is there a reason why it's 10-1 and not just 1?
Yeah, so a 1 universal year is always going to be a 10 year.
Okay. Oh, okay. Great to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because unless it's year 1, it's not going to be just a flat out 1 year. So it's always going to be a 10-1. I'm going to start with 1. The basic meaning of 1 is new beginnings, new cycles. So we went from ending cycles to starting over into a new one. Rebirth, trailblazing, enthusiasm, passion. You think of number 1 as very much Aries energy, which is like in astrology, it's like first house energy. It's fiery, it's passionate, it's ready to get started. It's do now, ask questions later type of energy. It can be naive at times. There are shadow meanings of all of the numbers as well. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, and I feel like that's a big piece of advice that I would give people this year, is not to get ahead of yourselves. Don't put the cart before the horse. Be mindful of your steps. It's okay to be excited. It's okay to have enthusiasm, but don't trip yourself up. So just be mindful of what you're doing, so you don't have to backpedal. You don't have to start all over again. So there might be a lot of this starting and stopping type of feeling, especially in the first couple of months of the year. 1 can also mean individuality. I feel like we're all going to be coming back to this inner authority, seeing how we are set apart from other people. The one stands alone. It's like that saying, the cheese stands alone. The one is the cheese. And it wants to be honored and respected for its individuality. It can also, contradictory to that, mean unity, which is also something I love about the one. That's actually a meaning that 9 and 1 share. A lot of the numbers have dual meaning. And so I feel like there is this big opportunity this year for everyone to come together, work together, and remember that we are all one. We are all part of Source Creator, and that there's nothing separating us. So I feel like there will be a lot of people who wake up to that realization. Maybe if they're still carrying unresolved issues within themselves, they'll realize there's no difference between me and this person that I'm having an issue with, be it their family, be it somebody on the street. We can all come together. And I know that probably is like very hippie of me, but I'm a hippie at heart. I love people naturally. And now looking at the 10 aspect of this universal year. So I love the number 10. So if you break down the number 10, we have 1, which is the self, individuality that I was talking about. It's like having our own unique identification. And then 0 is what's called the God number. That's what it's called, but it just represents God, source, spirit. And so this is our connection to the divine. This is how we interpret that connection between us and the spiritual realm. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of really beautiful activations. I do feel like there's going to be more mass awakenings happening because of that. We're all going to start to see that there is no separation between us and spirit. And it's going to unfold differently for everybody else, right? There's not going to be like a one size fits all with that kind of situation.
I think Seeking Center, the entity, is, this is our year.
She's about it. Yes, absolutely. And then looking at, like I said, there's a shadow side to all the numbers, just like there is everything else. So some themes that could be really heavy for this one year is isolation. So there could be people that are maybe, I don't want to say targeted, but there may be people who are pushed to the side, like pushed to the outskirts. Like, if you're not going to conform, then you're going to go over here. And we don't want you to be a part of what we have here. And that could look in so many different ways. There could be a country that gets isolated and not just one person. But I do feel like there could be an opportunity for that. I also see inexperience. So, like I said, one, it can be a very youthful energy. And so sometimes, like I said, that whole cart before the horse thing, we can see people just maybe giving up too easily, or maybe feeling like they had the confidence to pull it off and not actually having the skill set to pull it off. There's also ego trips, arrogance, things like that. Whenever you have this desire within you, this ambition, which are all good things in the one universal year, sometimes it can also be of detriment in that you don't have, like I said, the skill set to back it up. So there'll be a lot of talk, not a lot of follow through, not a lot of action. There's also frivolousness. That's a big aspect of one, in that you are not taking stock, not being mindful of what you have available to you. So be mindful of where you put your resources, how you utilize your resources in this coming year. And then also, I just want to say, to remedy these things, like discipline, patience, and humility will remedy these things. And I'm hoping that we will all embrace more of the 10 aspect of the universal year rather than the 1 because of that. The shadow side of 10 is a full-on just disconnect from spirit. And it's choosing not to live in gratitude and not to see the blessings that you have before you, and just focusing on the negative, on the more, I guess you would say, lower vibrational aspects of life. And so it's all about our perspective and how we choose to see what's going on around us. A lot of people will tell me, oh my gosh, everything's a dumpster fire and everything's bad. And it's, yes, we're not negating that there's things going on in the world, but things have always gone on in the world at all times. And I do feel like things are more accelerated. So I do feel like that might be another aspect to this one year, because it's all about quick, fast, and in a hurry. So we need to slow down, learn to be patient, and learn to see the magicalness that is happening on around us and not focusing on everything that is just inherently bad, because that too can trip us up.
Yeah, I think what you're saying makes so much sense when you are in this 10-1 energy and one energy in particular, things are new. I love that word humility because it is something that we all need to have more of because we don't know it all. And this is really a year where you may have so many incredible ideas and energy to do new things. And check before you do, ask for help, take your time. It doesn't have to be rushed. And I think the other thing too is that idea of that choice. At any given moment, you can look at things and as like the dumpster fire, or you can look at things from a different lens of, wow, look at what I do have. And you can change your perspective. It's a choice. And that's so easy to make. It sometimes feels harder to make the more positive choice. There's something about that energy. Just be mindful. That other word, be mindful.
Yes, absolutely. I also have some other meanings if you'd like for me to share.
Yes.
I guess you could say they're less commonly known. So, as I mentioned earlier, one has a lot of tie to the first house in astrology, which is the self. This might be a time where we all are starting to focus on not just being selfish and thinking about ourselves, but like, how can I, with the skill sets that I have and the gifts that I have, make the biggest impact? So we can all contribute and we can all focus on what that looks like, what that means for us. And I do feel like a lot of people will be developing their skill sets, whether it is spiritual or whether it's more of the practical side of things. Another thing could be physicality, our physical vessel, our physical body. So I do feel like health and wellness is going to be extremely highlighted in this coming year, like what you're putting into your body, how you move your body, but also about being in the body, like sensations and experiences related to our physical vessel, because that's actually intuition. So learning how to develop your intuition through body signals. I also want to talk about the root chakra. In the chakra system, the root chakra is the base. It's the first one that we come to usually. And so that's about our sense of groundedness and security, looking for stability. I feel like there might be a lot of people who feel unstable, and that might be either because of what's going on in the world or because, like I said, their gifts are coming online. They're awakening. They're becoming more aware of something, or whatever terminology you want to use there. And so I feel like our sense of stability might be shaken because of that. But it's also remembering that we are our own anchor. Like the root chakra is that anchor. It keeps us stable. It keeps us centered. And so give your root chakra some love. And remember that it also helps us to be grounded. Groundedness can also combat some of these shadow meanings of the one universal year. I also feel it's important to mention that this has a lot to do with youth. Our young people, babies specifically. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of babies born this coming year. I also know Jupiter's in Cancer in astrology, and that has a lot to do with the birth rate. But I do feel like there's going to be a lot of young people coming on the stage. I also saw last year there were going to be young people who become known for their inventions. I feel like that trend is going to continue into this year. Probably my favorite lesser known meaning is like breakthroughs and the breaking downs of the constructs of society, kind of like bashing the status quo and coming out with our own new determination of these things, even though it has to do with isolation, but also not fitting in. I don't want to fit in. Like being proud to be exactly who you are and not apologizing for it.
Ooh, Boy, this feels like really good, fresh, new energy. We were saying when we
Yes.
talked with Stevie, and it's so parallel with.
Yeah, and there is, and they're not exact. I will say astrology and numerology do have their differences. However, yes, there can be a lot of overlap in all of these different modalities, and that's what's really fascinating about it.
Yeah, and the fact that you can layer them together for even more meaning. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Especially the Aries energy, because she
exactly.
talked a lot about that. I'm sure you've seen that,
Yeah,
Beth.
It
absolutely.
does feel lighter. It feels there's a lot of promise and opportunity there. Coming out of last year, at least going into 2025, I felt like there was a lot of fear and heaviness and trepidation of and uncertainty of what was ahead. And I feel like now that we've gotten through it, we've come out on the other side. Now going into this 10-1, it just feels like there's so much possibility ahead
Mm,
versus fear, which
absolutely.
I think we're all welcoming.
And that Aries is
Absolutely.
all about action, right? Aries is all about let's get this thing going. And so it's interesting that you just even brought that up as an energy because so much of what we will experience in 2026, according to astrology, is a lot of that energy.
Exactly. And also, since we're on this subject, you think about Chinese astrology, even, it's going to be the year of the fire horse. A lot of people have been talking about that. Same kind of overlapping themes of just freedom, expansion, moving ahead. These are all interwoven in with each other.
Exactly.
Now, each month also has a number. You can look at each month as well. Are there going to be certain months that we need to pay closer attention to, or certain months because of the numerology and their coupling with 10-1 will have stronger impact, meaning things that we should be looking for in 2026?
They all have their own merit and relevance, but nothing really stood out to me. I just feel like the year as the whole is going to be very pivotal, but that's where the personal numbers come in because I feel looking at how it affects you personally, like leaning into that individuality type of interpretation. But I will say, I do think that Aries season, the whole season of Aries, is going to be very significant. And maybe even October, because September is going to be a one universal month. But for some reason, October came through as maybe we will see something shift around that time. And that makes sense to me because that's when the upcoming year's energy starts to trickle in. So there's no definitive line with these months and years and these numbers, right? In October of every year, that's when we start to see the influence of the upcoming year start to make its way into our energy fields. And that might be why. But
Yeah.
I didn't dive into it super deep, to be
Yeah.
honest.
And I think that idea of Aries season, for those who aren't aware, that is really mid to late March to mid to late April.
Yes.
So if you're wondering when that is from an astrological perspective. However, there is also Aries influence is very strong. I actually think that may be not just because that is like the Aries season, but I believe what Stevie talks about in the 2026 astrological forecast is that maybe when Aries comes much stronger for a longer period of time, right around then too. And I can't remember the exact dates, but
Yes.
I'm sure that there's probably synergy in what you're feeling.
And if I just off the cuff think about it as well, one, so all of the numbers have a planetary association as well, since we're talking about this. And one is ruled by the sun.
Oh,
And
wow.
so maybe Leo season will be significant as well. Maybe all the fire seasons will be significant for us. And so I feel like the sun is illuminating.
Yeah.
It's got that intensity that Aries season is known for. And yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
the fire seasons is what's standing out, what's going to be pivotal for us. For whatever reason, I do feel like October is going to be significant as well. So maybe like August to October, we're going to see something like an uptick in something, Or maybe that's when more and more people will start to open up and embrace their gifts. Who knows? It could look like anything.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I think if you're listening to this or watching this, you're someone who's somewhat open and curious anyway. And maybe this will be the year that you become a little more curious, or you start some other practices, or you talk to other people who are starting to realize there's more than just this body here. We have so much more going on in and around us. So this is exciting.
It really is.
So if people are interested in understanding their own personal year, so you have your universal year that we just talked about, but we also have our own personal year. Can you just remind us how we calculate that?
And what that means, how to integrate that into that universal year.
Yeah, so to find your personal year, you add the month and day of your birthday to the universal year, and you add up the individual numbers. So I'll use myself as an example. My birthday is April 3rd. So 4 plus 3 is 7, and then 7 plus 1 is 8. So I'm having an 8 personal year in 2026. The only difference is when you have a master number like 11 or 22, you do not reduce those. So let's say your birthday is January 11th, it would be 1 plus 11 plus 1. And that will determine your personal year. That would be 4. Yeah, 13-4.
Okay, so can I ask mine? Just because
sure.
I have a master number. So mine is 422. So would that be 4 plus 22 plus 1?
Yes. So you'd have let's see, 4 plus 22 is 26.
Yeah.
So you'll have a 27-9 personal year this year.
All right.
That's interesting.
All right. Gotta look that up.
Yeah, you can talk to me.
And just real quick, because I think mine's a 9 this year. This is a 1 universal year, right? But I'm still in the 9. I'm still in the finishing up some things.
Yes.
How does that work together? How do I balance the two?
Like I said, it's different for everybody. There's going to be meanings for you that are more inherently personal that I would pull from the intuitive, so to speak. So if you are having a 9 personal year and you're going into a 1, this isn't bad or negative or anything like that. It could mean that you're in a place where you want to serve more, and you want to do that from your personal gifts. So maybe you're developing a certain gift or a certain skill set that you feel is personal to you, and using that to serve other people, because 9 is a more philanthropic number. And so 9 is about everyone. It's about the whole and how we can serve everyone and not just the self. It's a very selfless number. And so because of that, you may want to learn how to develop a skill set, a gift, things like that, or even just find a way to give back individually. Maybe you say, this is something I want to do on my own. This is a project I want to work on my own, and doing it for a group of people.
Greater good. Interesting.
It can mean so many different things. But yes, it could mean that maybe there's something that you're wanting to finalize and you're doing it for yourself. It's something that you need to do in order for you to evolve and move forward, for you to grow, to make you feel liberated and free. And that doesn't necessarily have to be something in the outer world. That could be your inner world.
Yeah.
That could be a habit, a mindset.
And so that personal year, what we hope people walk away understanding is that there's this universal year and universal energy, and then there is your personal year and what you personally need to work on. And there's a way probably to figure out how that all works together. But regardless, it's just having the understanding of, okay, this is what I need to really work on for me. This is how it may show up within the collective and what's going on with the collective. And just having this information helps you navigate the overall year better because you have a little bit more information going into it.
Absolutely. Because there were a lot of realizations that came up in 2025. There were a lot of things that were buried beneath the surface that came up to the surface to be seen, to be navigated through. And maybe there's just more of that energy coming for the two of you. If you're having 9 personal years, it's like there's something that I want to unearth. And I feel like if I do that, then I will be in a much better place within. And then that can translate into something that you provide out in the world.
That's really interesting. That's
Yeah,
cool.
we could talk about it all day.
We sure could. And how would you suggest people use numerology throughout their day to day or throughout their weeks? What is a good way of integrating this knowledge?
Obviously, learning about it helps. I will be teaching classes on this next year. And maybe it sounds cheesy, but I feel like numerology can be very empowering. I feel like knowing the energy that you're walking into, even if you don't fully know what that picture looks like, but just having a framework for the direction that you're headed and knowing what's going to be highlighted and what's going to be important gives you such an advantage. Just like I said, these other modalities that we study out here in Seeking Center and here out in the world, we are trying to make the most empowered decisions for ourselves. And so by learning your personal signature, your personal number, it helps you not only understand yourself better, it helps you understand the energy, it helps you understand other people, it helps you understand the significance of what's going on in the world around you.
It's so true. It really does. I think for those who look at astrology on a daily basis, you can add numerology to that
Yeah.
as
Absolutely.
well.
Yes.
It's very informative. You'll see some synergies, and other times you'll see, I think, nuances that are really helpful. And I think to your point, having that framework, it really does help validate certain aspects of your day to day.
Yes, it can be very validating.
Beck, is there any resource that you would suggest for people who are listening if they're trying to look up, like, what does the number 8 mean? Where do I go? Aside from having a session with you, of course, and taking your class, but is there like a resource that you trust that defines what those numbers mean?
Yes, and I've mentioned her before. Her name is Christine De Leroy, and she has been a numerologist forever and a day. And she's actually one of the people that I learned from. But she has a really awesome website, and so she's been a really good resource for me, and I do trust that resource.
Thank you.
When people come to have a numerology reading with you, what do they need to have in terms of their own information?
Their birth date.
They just need the birth date. Do they need the birth time or any of that like you do in astrology?
I can utilize that information, but typically, let's say for a general reading, I just need your birthday.
Okay.
I can go as in depth as you want me to. It just depends on a person to person basis. Some people are saying, hey, I'm good with just an overall. And some people are like, I really want the nitty gritty details. So it just depends on how deep of a reading you're wanting.
Are there any messages that you've intuitively received around 2026 that we haven't brought up already in just talking about the numerology?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot to do with nutrients and nutrition. So I saw there was a lot around plant life, oceans, sources of nutrients, ways that we find nourishment and fulfillment, but not just from a physical standpoint, not just from a nutritional standpoint. There was also something about the stripping down to the essentials, like getting back to basics. And so I feel like people are really going to want to either simplify their life or just simplify how they do things or the meanings of things, which can be good and bad. There's some things that just simply cannot be simplified. Oh gosh, there was so much. Also, there was a lot around science. I saw like advancements in health and maybe in scientific technology and energy, especially. So maybe the way that we source energy, use energy, there might be something new that comes out of that arena. Also, I saw color therapy.
Oh,
I feel like color, you were talking about colors earlier, and I just thought that was funny because I was like, color therapy was a theme.
wow.
Maybe the significance of color therapy, and maybe that'll be a gift that people tune into if they're on their spiritual journey. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that get reimagined. I feel like this probably started long before now, but I feel like it's going to be out in the world. It's going to be services and things that are finally going to be provided. And there may be people who, like I said, jump the gun and they have to go back and rework it. Kind of like getting the bugs out. It's kind of like when you download new software or whatever, when your phone updates, it gets the bugs out, it says. But I saw a lot also around, like I said, birth, because I feel like there is going to be an uptick in the population. So there's going to be a lot around maybe the birthing process, and then also genetics. That came through really loudly. It was like maybe there's going to be a mutation of genes that we have not seen before. Ooh. Which kind of aligns with some other messages that I've gotten about the future. I do feel like that is going to come forward. I also saw solar power.
Okay.
So that made sense to me too. I was like, that makes sense because of the sun.
I was just going to say, you said that.
Yeah, one being ruled by the sun. So maybe that's another way that we harness that technology. Oh my goodness. I could really go on and on.
Wow, that's amazing.
Take all day. I also saw an uptick in like physical and occupational therapy.
Maybe that's because people are paying more attention to their physical well-being.
Absolutely. So
it's that idea too around that whole rebirth, right? If we're really starting to look at our bodies in a completely new way, care for them in a new way, that all aligns.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, I do feel like probably the loudest message that I got was like unobstructed genius, like just not putting restrictions on our minds, on our thoughts, and really starting to embrace unique ideas like we haven't ever before. I'm here for it.
Yeah. Honestly. And it makes sense with what you talked about from that, like one energy, which is very much new, right? And youthful. And so there's probably a welcoming of that. And then there's the watch out of just also take your time, or you try, and then you may just have to do it again. Most of the time, there's no harm in trying something, but just have that humility around you.
Yes.
As well.
Don't get frustrated with yourself if you're not perfect at it the first time you do it. I see a lot of like kids and teenagers with that kind of attitude. It's like, I'm not perfect at it right now. Like, I'm never going to be perfect at it. And that's not true.
Yeah. And it's interesting we brought about the youth and the babies, especially because I know in our episode that we posted a few weeks ago around human design, Chrissy Beth Hubbard talked about how in human design, two things, 2027, they call the new paradigm, which is something that I know we want to continue to talk about and understand. Yes. And with that, the babies and how human design in general, the modality is so much, yes, it's about all of us, but very much about the youth and the babies and the new generation. And so it's interesting when you talk about potential mutations of something, who knows? Wow. I don't know. We're all up for that discussion. That's what the Seeking Center is about, having these discussions and just being open. And who knows where that all leads and how it ends up becoming our realities, right? It's such a blessing to have this information, and then you can do with it what you want.
Yeah, it's like little clues from the
It is. Oh my goodness. We have a lot to think about. I think that everybody listening, if they haven't already by the end of this episode right now, has gone and calculated their personal year. They can go reach out to you now at akashicbec.com and book a session. And also, please let us know when you do post your classes.
Absolutely.
We love you, Bec. You're just a wealth of knowledge in all modalities.
Yes. And it's a little bit of a laying out of our path ahead for 2026, which I think we should all be excited about. Sounds really promising.
It does.
I think so too. I think you're right. We're closing out a cycle. And I would even invite people to think about this past year and even the past decade. And what are some things that you've learned and that you want to integrate into this coming year? What do you want to embody? You know,
take the time, whether it's 15 minutes of your day to really focus on that. It doesn't take that long once you actually set that intention to think back. And you may end up sitting there longer than that, but just even set that for 15 minutes and think back over the last year, over the last 10 years, where you've come, who you are, and where do you want to go?
Because I feel like that's a necessary part of moving forward is taking a moment to look back and appreciate how far you've come.
Yes. Even in these conversations from year to year, I think about here we are and look at all we've learned. And I remember back last year talking about collapsing, like things were going to collapse, and she couldn't have been more right. And just also, there was so much information from 2025 that really did come to fruition. And look where we are. I know Karen and I talk about this all the time. We're starting 2026 so much fresher with such enthusiasm because we're focusing on our community and on ourselves. And we want to be of service in the world, but not focus on the fear. And so I think the more you can do that, the better you're being for your own soul's evolvement.
And something that's coming through is not to compare yourself. And this is something that I teach over and over again is how that it's that old saying, comparison is the thief of joy. And so learning how not to compare yourself and just stay in your own lane, focus on your own growth and don't try to compare yourself to everything and everyone outside of you because your journey is just as relevant, just as beautiful as everyone else's.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly.
For today, and it's good for the year.
That is right. You are the star of your own movie, everybody. And that is the perfect way to end this conversation about our 10-1 year. And thank you, Bec, for everything. We look forward to lots more collaborating this year and for all of your wisdom and guidance. So thank you.
Of course. I love being here. Thank you, ladies. I really
Big
appreciate
hugs.
you.
Here's to 2026. And you can catch Bec in the Seeking Center community on February 25th. We're going to be doing a whole workshop on numerology and how to integrate that into your life. What does it mean? If you want to understand it more, join us. You can go to seekingcentercommunity.com. You can go to theseekingcenter.com and join the community if you haven't already. And again, that'll be February 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern in the community.